how you got started, who you are, what got you into music teaching, and where you are now.
Hi. Well, thank you so much for having me. It truly is an honor. This is the first time that I'm really doing something like this on a podcast. I do this all the time with my friends. Whenever I find someone that has talent or I see talent in my friends, I give them more than just a push and a nudge to start creating content and get out there, because this applies, and hopefully my journey will apply to anyone that does anything in the market. It doesn't have to be someone who is in the music field. And I got started with two failed YouTube channels. One was a travel channel, and the second one was about my life in Japan. I was teaching out in Japan, and I thought everyone wants to see what my journey is like in Japan. And the only video that got any views was the one where I shared my onsen experience, because, like, in Japan, everyone's fully nude. And I thought, okay, this is not the audience that I want to appeal to. Like, I'm not going to go and try out all these onsens, like the hot baths, and talk about it. This is not me. So I was really defeated. And then over the winter break from teaching, because I used to be an elementary school teacher at the time, I just felt that in, like, my core that I needed to make a YouTube channel. And of course, like, I had this, maybe it wasn't revelation, maybe it was common sense that said, like, teach music. That's what you know how to do. And it was like, duh, well, that's what I studied. That's what I studied at Cal Poly, and that's what I do now. But in my mind, I knew that my YouTube channel was going to help me leave my regular job. So I thought it had to be something different. I didn't think that I could do the same thing at my job and on my channel. And so I started consuming as many audiobooks as I could, because my commute to my work was 45 minutes. And so I downloaded audiobooks on being a charming person, making friends, being sociable, on business, on finance, on everything that I could consume. I just wanted to learn it all. And one of the business books that I downloaded said that, and this is common, this is known, that most businesses fail in the first 5 years. What I didn't know was the second half of that is that the businesses who make it past those 5 years have really high rates of success. So I thought, oh, I just need to keep going for 5 years. And if I make it 5 years, then I'll have it made. And 5 years didn't sound like a long time, because, that's about how long it takes to get a degree nowadays. So I was like, oh, you just do it like a degree and then you're good at it. So I started making videos consistently, and I promised myself that I wouldn't put any money into the business, that it would just be my time. So I used my iPhone 4S, which is what I had to make the videos. I didn't have a microphone, and I was using iMovie, which was the free software on my computer at the time. And I told myself, if this makes any money, then I'll use that money to reinvest back into it. So I started making videos, and the first month that I made any money, I think it was 25 cents. And you know what? Those 25 cents felt better than I think I was making like 2,500 a month teaching. I was like, that felt better.
Yeah.
Like, it was so satisfying. And so,
And how long did it take you to get to that point? So like from your first video to your first 25 cents or first money made on YouTube, I suppose.
Yeah. Back then it used to be easier to get monetized. You just needed to get an AdSense account and connect yourself. I think it took maybe like 3-4 months, because
wow, yeah, that is quick.
It was quick because I was finally making content about something I knew what like to talk about, And even those two failed YouTube channels that I had before, I had tried to start one of them, and I felt so dumb talking to the camera by myself that I like stopped, and I didn't retry again for another year, because I felt so dumb. I was like, this is really dumb. Like, nobody cares what you have to say. Everybody says this though. But once I started talking about music education, the channel started to gain some traffic. I thought my traffic was going to be other music teachers because I was talking about my experience teaching and things that I was learning along the way. I was teaching ukulele to elementary children. And at the time, in your coursework for university, you get trained on how to teach like wind instruments and string instruments, maybe even choral. And the elective class is guitar or recorder, like the little flute. But
Yeah, I used to play that, I remember.
Exactly. And so nobody was teaching about how to teach ukulele. And I thought, oh, this is how I'm going to make it. Like
So you
everyone's.
found a niche.
I thought I did. It wasn't music teachers. It was people wanting to learn ukulele. They're like, hey, you're actually a good teacher. Because I was like, teachers, this is how you're going to teach. Let me give a sample lesson. Well, people were watching the sample lesson to actually learn from me. And they're like, hey, can you do this song next? And I was like, who are you? Like, are you a music teacher? No, I just want to learn. So I thought, no, of course not. I'm not going to do that. And I continued like trying to teach teachers. Nobody was watching that. So I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to teach one chord per video. And I'm going to make my video less than a minute long because it's not so much commitment. If there's a new person, like, because we all have the creators we like, right? And I thought, no one's going to want to listen to me if I talk for 5 minutes. So I'm going to make the videos like as short as possible. And I went and got a new haircut and I would do my hair and makeup. Like, I'm like, I have to look presentable. Like, they're, because that's the thumbnail, you know, it's like an album cover. So, like, if it's a short video time and if the thumbnail looks good, I'm like, okay, people are going to watch it. And then I started analyzing my own behavior watching videos. And I realized that I hated when creators talked for a half hour before they got to the point of the video. So I made it a challenge to get to the point of the video within 10 seconds. And so I would just restate the title of the video, which confirms to the listener, okay, this is why I clicked here. And then I just got started like teaching. And so in a very short amount of time, they got someone who is professionally looking, you know, because I was put together. The thumbnail and the title of the video matched the content and I got right to it. And I only taught one thing. And because I'm only teaching one thing, I would say something, for example, like put your ring finger on the third fret that's closest to the floor and make that string ring first. Okay, if that rings, great. If it doesn't, wiggle the finger around until you get a ringing note. And now you can strum the whole instrument. And that's C chord. And then I would say, you're done. And so people are like, oh, so then they started binge watching my content. Exactly. So if anyone is thinking about starting to make content, please, please, please don't exhaust the first 10 seconds talking about why you made the video. They really don't care. They just want to get the answer to the question.
Yeah, which is probably a good thing. But what I did see is like a lot of your content, you do change roles like a lot. So you go from like super professional music artist video to like comedy sketches on TikTok sort of thing.
Yeah.
So you do have quite a wide range of content that you create. How did you sort of get started and where did you get started with your content? So what was the idea when you first started maybe producing music or producing social media content?
I feel like when I was a kid, I pretty much was producing it without filming it. Like I'm always the person that's putting on a show when I'm with my friends, or I have some kind of sarcastic joke or comment, or I imitate people. So it sort of just stems from that, like my personality, what it's like to be a friend of mine, what it's like to hang out with me. And it's kind of how I express myself, and sort of like, I don't know, trends or what's going on in the world. I sort of put it all through content and sort of comedy and music. I don't know. It's how I deal with life. And people want to see
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's a space for everything now. But
Yeah,
which did you
exactly.
prefer doing? The comedy stuff or the more serious
All of
stuff?
it. All of it.
Mm.
I feel like I personally feel that my purpose is to be a healer, and I think that one of the greatest ways to head towards a path of healing is through laughter, and music and movement. So yeah, I kind of just resonate in the entertainment performing arts industry, but I sort of see myself as a bit of a spiritual emotional healer, if that makes sense.
Nice.
Because then if you
No,
sort of go,
it does.
that's kind of where I'm coming from, then everything I do makes sense.
I suppose you said you kind of started when you were a kid doing this sort of thing, but
Yeah.
when did you first start seeing success with content online? Like, was there a certain video or a certain thing that you did that you started seeing like, hey, there's a lot of people watching this or following this?
Well, the first one, the project that I was involved with was the Princess Rap Battle. So that one did insane. Like I was just like actress going into castings and singer trying to get signed. I was on that path of resistance, like a lot of artists are, which is like, well, if I'm good enough or if I can prove myself to be good enough, I won't have to let people into my life or create content. That kind of stuff. Like you just sort of feel, if I'm good enough, the kind of stuff, which is stupid. It's like by being vulnerable, by being open, by making content that resonates with you, by having your own kind of perspective on trends or dances or anything, and sharing that perspective with people is connecting. Like that's the point of social media. So I had to get over myself and just put it out there and just be a little bit brave. And I was inspired because I saw that, the Princess Rap Battle did really well and a lot of people were sort of reaching out online, and I was like, oh, okay, people don't hate you immediately. Like there's actually nice people online. So yeah, for me, it was like I was kind of thrust into the world by being cast in something that had digital success. I just started to slowly dip my toes into it. But I did sort of feel like I was kind of thrown in head first because I am a very sensitive, reserved, introverted person. So yeah, it was.
No, I think it's
crazy.
good getting thrown in head first.
Yeah, and it kind of makes you feel like, oh, it's not that bad. I am that kind of person that, like, if I was to go bungee jumping or something, I'd need that friend to just push me
give
off
you a nudge
because I would do it.
How did you discover this niche and then decide, hey, I should build a product or service for this? And, how did that even come about?
I want to tell you that I planned this all out, meticulous research and everything. And honestly, I've been stumbling from one thing to the next since I started. I was already doing music composition. My main job was corporate video and annual report DVDs. These things probably don't even exist anymore. I used to joke that it was called music for pie charts, and it was great, and it was bread and butter. And in about 2012, that market started to dry up, and I started looking around for other things. I had 2 young children at the time, and they were just getting to that age where I thought maybe I could introduce them to Dungeons and Dragons, which I enjoyed when I was in middle school and high school. And we played our first couple of games and they liked it. And I thought, it would be very cool. And at this point, I had not done any research. If I could play ambient sound design and, sound effects and music and help them, be immersed in the game. So I cobbled together some of my old projects that I had done for clients and made a couple of 10-minute long loops, and we played it in our next game, and it was like instant. The level of their immersion and engagement was just astonishing. And I thought, oh, that's very cool. And at this point, I still haven't found out that this is a thing, that there are other people doing this. And so after a few more weeks, I decided to cobble together a website. and put some tracks on there. And I went onto the Reddit, the RPG subreddit, and I said, "Hey, I did this thing. Maybe you'll find it interesting." And I honestly thought that would be the end of it. And people were just like, "Hey, this is great. This is really cool. I'm interested. What else can you do? Make one of these. And all of a sudden, requests started coming in. And so,
and that's requests for audio.
Yeah, requests for, I guess, scenarios. Like my game is centered around a boat. Can you make something on a boat? Stuff like that.
Okay.
And so I kind of developed this process by which I could create these, over years, create these sounds. And I decided against putting it all on YouTube, I guess, for some reason. There was something about being beholden to another platform. So I probably did the dumb thing and made my own platform, which made discovery just so much harder. Also, it was more expensive. All these things are probably not a good idea in the short term. In the long term, I think it may have been the right move. Yeah, and that's basically how it started. And the more people were interested in it, the more I created things. And then I, had to move on to the question of how do I make something out of this? How can I transition this into a business?
When did you kind of start YouTube? When did you realize that this was a platform that you could actually start generating an income from and turn it into a business? So how long have you been doing YouTube for? How long did it take you to kind of get to that first, let's say $1,000 in revenue from the platform?
Yeah. I was a musician first. I was a musician since the late 90s. And I was a professional musician probably from the year 2000 or so. The first years were obviously, a lot of, digging for change in couch cushions and stuff. But YouTube, I started in 2017, I believe. Yeah, 2017. And my goals are very I guess just different than what most people's are when they start a YouTube channel. I kind of was like, well, it's a place where like my followers for music can, I guess, hear from me, because I was kind of, I guess, I moved to Georgia. I was living in the woods. I really didn't have much of a presence anymore. And I embraced that for a bit and like made a lot of art and, made an album. But then I was like, okay, well, I got to learn how to talk a little bit better because I'm stuttering too much, because I literally am not speaking to people. And also some free synthesizers and stuff would be cool as well. So maybe I'll just start a YouTube channel and see where that goes. And so I had the initial bump of a few thousand followers just from people who, were reading my tweets or, whatever else. But yeah, I got out of control pretty fast. Like I took a lot of breaks in the beginning, and then I realized that consistency in like 2020 when the pandemic hit, all my shows were canceled. Pretty much a lot of my sources of income dried up. I ran a record label, nonprofit record label, and I had an album come out like literally the day before they shut London down. And, and so not only that, but like running a record label and running my own, I'm very into running everything myself. And so running my own like shipping center, everything was being held at customs and then sent back or just destroyed. And so, that was just a massive, I lost a lot of money on a physical release of an album, which I guess I was happy about in a way, because it was like, oh, this is the end of CDs. That's great. Now everything can be digital. So yeah, then I just went full time into YouTube, and I don't want to say full time, but I guess, one video a week was my minimum for a year. And at the end of that year, I started a Patreon account, which a lot of people were asking for. Like a lot of people are like, you should start a Patreon so we could chip in, or so we could do this. And the Patreon just kind of really, the community is amazing. Like I wish I could say I did more with it. Like in terms of like, I wish I could say, oh, I set up this whole Discord thing and I set up but it's all their ideas and it's all their development and everything else. So that's really the gem of it.
So some crazy learnings there. So you shifting away from physical, streams of revenue, going into digital, mostly through YouTube, mostly through, it sounds like Spotify for distribution as well.
Yeah.
Lots of listeners there. And then monetization through, Patreon and that sort of thing. Give us a little background on how you got into DIY. Why did you choose to make a YouTube channel about DIY? It's kind of a interesting niche to go into.
It is an interesting niche, but I think the reason why I love DIY so much, and I think a lot of people can resonate with this, is that I was living in just weird basement apartments for most of my 20s, and they're just filled with weird nooks and crannies, and you have to be space conscious and really think about the things that you put in your home. But at the same time, I was dirt poor. So I had to come up with creative ways to make my home look good, but also to function. So it kind of had to have a duo function. So I was coming up with solutions on how to make my space look good, how to actually make it functional for me on a daily basis. So I started just kind of like building things in behind my couch, or building a table in my small, tiny kitchen that can fold down to give me more space. And they didn't look great at the time, but over time, and as my confidence started to build in the creation space, I definitely got better. And then, so I was always kind of like a crafty DIYer for a very long time. My past, before I was a YouTuber, I went to school for film and television. So I was producing digital content in the digital landscape for a very long time for other big brands. And I just, over the course of creating and storytelling, I just realized that I had a story to tell inside of me. And I just really genuinely loved to DIY more than anything in the world. And when I thought about putting those two worlds together for myself, I was like, why not? So I just took a chance, went for it, and here we are.
Hey guys, we put a bunch of effort into making great content for this YouTube channel. So please hit subscribe, leave us a comment, hit like, and tell a few friends about it.